Actually, this is, I believe this is from the south abutment, sorry, I didn't use this letter. They use pressure-treated wood. It's not supposed to be allowed in any drinking source in the state of Oregon, but they use what seems to be pressure-treated wood multiple times through the repair, and this is just about the erosion water intake.
And isn't this just upstream from the intake for Roseburg drinking water sources?
Correct.
Put pressure-treated wood right before the intake for our water here.
Correct.
Oh.
And we'll get into that in just a moment on proposed repairs too. This is right after the repairs. You can see the next time they did. This is the hole on the south abutment. So there's upwelling. We'll talk about a repair that happened there a while ago. This is the drawing. This is the one that I like to show the perspective of how small it is right there by the fish ladder and how deep it is further down on the south side. You can see obviously the main channel for migration for fish is all the way there against that south side. Unfortunately, those fish come up, have to work their way all the way across that bedrock we saw in the previous photo and make their way into the fish ladder. Another photo showing some of the false attraction issues. As you can see, the water is still pouring over this side of the dam, but you can see back in the day, they have done repairs since then, but all the false attraction flow coming out. I wouldn't be surprised if it looks something like that today, based off of the fact that they haven't repaired it in a while. This is just the face of the dam, dewatered. Interesting look. Again, this is the timber crib that was built 130 years ago. There's been some repairs to it.
Now, wait, going back for a second, forgive me, Kurt. Is that the backside that the water pool is against, or is that the front side that the water cascades over?
Front side that the water cascades over. You can see the bell curve and the roller gates are over here.
Okay.
I'm going to show you a picture of the backside. I think it's the next one. No, it's not the next one. I don't know if I might not have included it. It's kind of a mellow outcropping of sediment and stuff down here, except for on the south of it where there's upwelling down here, and we'll get into that in a minute. This is showing the false attraction flows back in the day when they did the repairs. You can just see the water gushing out.
That's going through the dam.
Yeah. And these are the false attraction flows. So although we have a bubble curtain coming over, those fish can get in underneath, and then there's false attraction flows coming from right through most of these holes in here. And so fish are kind of jumping against that.
So they're basically holes all within that dam.
Correct.
So, if they can get in to some of those false attraction places, then ODFW really doesn't have an accurate count as to what's going on.
They can't really get through it.
They try.
They try, they
Okay.
can't get through.
Okay.
So they try, and then they finally make their way over. Think of how much delay it might be causing to some of these fish.
Okay.
This is just explaining some of the more, I really like this photo. This is the interior cavity. I have a feeling that they probably have done some repairs to this since then, I would hope. But this is obviously the timber crib that started with. You can see how much erosion has occurred. This is from Oregon Water Resources Department.
It looks like a condemned basement.
Yeah. You can see cobble where that is white and degraded and was put in the dam. This is again the south abutment. You can see the erosion on the backside. So the crib of the dam is actually made through pieces of rebar that are like drilled into the bedrock on the backside. And it's hard to see in this photo, but there's actually like a bolt on top. They bolted the sill of the dam to the rebar and then poured concrete over everything, and then you have the face of the dam. There's false attraction flows right here. It's hard to really see. There's a video of it that I didn't know if I could show video, but so I just took a video. You can see if you go look at the dam, you have these roller gates coming through. There's a bunch of bubbling going on. This occurred in 2015. They did repairs in 18, and it's back again already. So I'll get to that in just a minute. So when they did the repair, they got an emergency permit to do repairs. They said that they needed to get them done right away. They didn't have to get any permits from the Army Corps. They didn't have to get DSL's removal fill permit. Everything was waived. They hired a local contractor that lives above the dam, Basco Logging, to do all the work for them. No engineer was hired. They were consulted at IE Engineering. However, IE Engineering didn't really want to deal with it. So I don't think they gave some numbers to other people. They decided they just needed to get the project done. They built a cofferdam. You can see it back here. All the lines behind the dam. That's how you dewater the area. Basically, a cofferdam is an earthen dam that stops water going through. They didn't isolate the work area. They were supposed to. They didn't. They started pumping water out of the area. It didn't really work, from my understanding. So they went ahead and just started pouring concrete. You can see the plume of sediment coming through of the green concrete. So they just dumped lots of concrete into the river. ODFW collected a lot of dead juvenile fish, a lot of dead juvenile stuff. DEQ, we reported it to DEQ, and DEQ fined them. They challenged the fine, saying that they didn't hurt anything. We were able to go to court and we upheld the decision. When I say we, the whole coalition of the whole coalition of 17 groups helped fund that aspect.
So the fine stood?
The fine stood.
How much?
56,000 is all.
How much?
56,000. The good thing that stood behind it was the fact that they killed juvenile fish. That the dam killed those fish in the process, and they were found guilty with that.
The green concrete is toxic.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So
caustic.
it brings us to where we are today, and obviously that has a lot of issues historically. It's been somewhat repaired, what Jim McCarthy likes to say, shoddy repairs. But we're somewhat happy, I guess you could say, that they've decided that they are going to do something. They're proposing some repairs. They're going to repair the dam face near the fish ladder, so that false attraction flow that I showed at the beginning. They're going to repair the timber face portions of the dam. So some of those dams, or some of those timbers that I showed you before, are really falling apart, and they're going to put steel plates in the ground. Not the best solution, but it's a solution, and put some beams between them. They're going to do that right in front of the dam. The other thing they're going to do, they're going to fill the voids in the existing dam embankment using polyurethane foam. We'll get back to that.
Okay, because
Some
I
of you
got
guys are
questions.
interested in that. And then the last thing that they're going to do is that same false attraction flow that came up in 2018 that they repaired is back again. So it lasted probably a year, if that, and they still have the same issue on that spar south end. The problem with upwelling, and there's basically a channel of water going under the dam, causing fish to think, oh, I should go that way. It's also ruining the structural integrity of the dam. The other thing to keep in mind, you can't really see it in this photo, is there's actually a bow in the dam, and that's why they're reinforcing those timber cribs. There's a bow from just the lack of maintenance and upkeep. It's a huge public safety standard and safety standard for failure of the dam. So,
If the dam was to fail, who is liable? Excuse me.
homeowners,
The Water Association is?
yes.
Is there a legal document anywhere that gives them the right to put a dam on a navigable river by individuals and not a government entity?
So it was initially put in by, I think it was I don't know the exact facts on this, but it was put in by Roseburg. and the electrician, it generated electricity, and it generated, it was the water source. It evolved multiple times, but I believe in '85 is when it was signed over to the homeowners, because nobody really wanted it. After the power was removed.
The state?
Basically, no, the county, it went from the power company, because it was Pacific Core bought it and owned it. And then from there, they didn't want it, and it somehow got transitioned, I believe, to the county and then to the homeowners, because nobody really wanted the dam.
The homeowners are a special district, and a special district is a government entity.
And again, like, you can't quote me on all of this, but that's the whole process. That's a great question that you have, though, like, is that what the state waterway users want? I think that's a question
But it
for
got
us.
grandfathered in, it was
Yeah.
put in before those regulations.
Oh,
And then, because 1890, right?
Yeah.
And so it just has been there, and now you can't do it now, but there's nothing to force them to take it out.
yeah, well, if you're gonna take a car from 1912 and try to drive it down the highway, they wouldn't let you, so the government has retroactive type.
The agencies do have a lot of pull here, and they have been doing a good job supporting, encouraging updates. We could always want more, but we're happy so far until more recently, and I'll share that in just a second. So this was their plan. This is what they're gonna do to make those repairs and bring it to a little better shape.
So, excuse me again, you say they, that's the
Yes.
the water control district.
Correct.
And we believe them?
So we don't want the agencies tend to have to. Luckily this time around, because of our watchful eye, they're having to apply for permits for everything. And they're going through a whole rigmarole of trying to get permits, whether or not they're accepted or not. I mean, we've been working with ODFW about, we knew they were gonna try and do this, and we were told that they're wanting to shut the fish ladder down for 3 weeks. And we said, there's no way you would do that, and guess what they did? They allowed it. So, that's what I'm getting to in just a second, but they are having to go through permits. There's still a biological assessment that has to be, or a biological opinion done by National Marine Fisheries Service on the take of coho salmon. It still has to be completed for them to do these proposed repairs. There's still a couple different permits that they have to get in order to make this successful. Again, we're not opposed to them doing repairs, but there's a couple different, the ways that they go about it are the ways that we're concerned about.
Can we talk polyurethane now?
Sure, we could jump into that, I don't know.
When do they expect the biological opinion to come through?
We're waiting on that every day. So we put in public records requests on it, we're itching to get it. It might be out right now, we don't know. So we're waiting on that. The biological assessment was released to us, released to the parties in the lawsuit, and it was made public. So if anyone wants it, I can share it with you.
Sure.
Cool.
So, but before we go to polyurethane, forgive me, Kat,
That's okay, whatever.
what's the estimate of the cost of this?
We don't have a full estimate, that's been their thing. But
Ballpark?
the one thing that I failed to mention again, fish passage triggers. So in order to, there's a couple different ways you can trigger fish passage in the state of Oregon. One is like a different, changing your water rate. You have to go through a fish passage review. You have to say there is an existing barrier that's grandfathered in. If they repair 30% of the dam, that it triggers fish passage, which means all the biologists from everywhere come in and analyze it and make sure that you have to meet the standard. And the standard by the feds as well as the state. And the state of Oregon is actually more strict than the feds. So, which is a good thing, right? It protects our fish. The cost of this is supposedly significantly less than 30% of the replacing the dam. but that would trigger a fish passage. The other thing that would trigger fish passage is a water right issue. And then there's a couple others, but those are kind of the two leverage. The take of ESA listed coho salmon, which is the litigation case that's pending right now.
Is there any other litigation against the dam, or has there been?
There has for the DEQ, but the main leverage point that we've had is the take of ESA listed coho. So that's where the leverage has been. There's another, I was gonna finish my presentation with it, but there's some new updated information on what exactly, and I'll wait for that, and that might cause some litigation as well.
You know, I'm involved in a water control district out in Lake Wasallala, and I know some of the changing rules. We have a new water master who is by the book. This is a big change from the good old boys that didn't want to make a fuss. But the cost of this kind of stuff can really, really get out of hand. And I don't know what estimates are, but if they get out of that for less than several $100,000, it's going to be a miracle.
I think it's gonna cost several.
They actually levied a bond on themselves,
Yes.
what, two years ago?
I think it was 2 years ago.
And for $3 million.
$3 million.
So they've got $3 million to do this.
And to cover their legal fees. Their legal fees are getting up there too.
Oh, yeah. Speaking of getting out of hand.
The parties that are
That's because
actually
you're fighting everything.
engaged in litigation are being represented by Earth Justice, which I don't know if anyone's familiar with them. They're a wonderful organization and everything's pro bono. I think they see fee compensation back after it's over, but they're a great organization.
So when was the lawsuit?
When was it?
When was it?
Probably 2 years now.
That Earth Justice sued them?
Yeah, the locals did.
Coalition.
What?
Earth Justice is representing steamboaters,
Oh.
Pacific Coast Federation of Fishermen, and Winchester Dam, or and Water Watch. So an update on the case is the judge granted a stay on the case based off of Winchester Water Control District said that they're doing repairs this summer and that it's gonna fix all the problems. So they got the stay last year, they extended into this year. And so basically the judge doesn't wanna deal with it, she would rather, I mean, I don't know what the judge wants to do, but basically she wants to kick it back to, she wants National Marine Fisheries Service to say they're taking coho or they're not taking coho.
So that's the biological opinion.
Yes, which we're waiting on. But the scope of the biological opinion can either be focused on repairs or it can be focused on the dam. And so we have been working to make it on the dam, not on the repairs. Because if it's focused on the repairs, which this biological assessment is just focused on the repairs, they don't care about anything else besides the work that they're gonna do. They say the environmental, if you read the biological assessment, it says the environmental baseline, which is what it is now. And they claim, if you read through the whole thing, which I've done, they claim that the biological baseline hasn't changed, it's only improved since 1985, so therefore passage is better for these fish
What?
than before.
You repeat that, please.
So the biological baseline has not gotten worse, they've only repaired the dam since 1985, so therefore we have reason to believe that the passage is only better than it was in 1985.
Because of the repairs,
Yes,
not
and
because of the
ODFW
numbers.
So ODFW also acknowledged in 1985, they acknowledged that things were fine, that it was passing fish were getting up. So they're using that quote as like things are still fine, things are at the norm.
So that's their baseline.
Correct.
Who is the water control board is arguing
It was their biological assessment through
Yeah.
DOWL, which is their consultant.
Okay.
So they
They're an
only-
engineering group.
So they only have to make it as good as what it was in 1985?
Well,
That's it?
until fish passage triggered, is what their consultant's saying.
The district's consultant.
Correct.
Well, they're not concerned about the fish as they are as much as a swimming hole.
So, this was said in the biological assessment. Winchester Dam has been in existence since the late 1980s and has undergone many modifications and repairs. However, no previous formal or informal consultations have been conducted with National Marine Fisheries Service or U.S. Fish and Wildlife.
That's
I
right.
put that in there because they haven't even had a consultation.
It's illegal.
So, the next thing I wanted to make a point of, ODFW has granted a 3-week fish passage block to the dam this summer. So they're gonna allow them to dewater the dam and work for 3 weeks without allowing any fish to move up through the ladder. This is a huge concern based off the reasoning that it's the tail end of peak summer steelhead migration, which last year we had 450 fish, and then this year we had 1,347. So those are the smallest number of summer steelhead we've ever seen. When we look back and add back in the harvest before Winchester Dam, 1962 was also a bad year. But ODFW said, you know, if you adhere to these, they gave a list of things below this. It's okay for you to shut down passage for 3 weeks. We find that crazy. We had a meeting with them. We asked them why. And the reason we find that crazy, I don't know if, well, I'll just share this. Back in the day when they did repairs to the dam, this is from the News Review, folks were furious. They blocked passage for 2 weeks, 17 days at sometimes, and that's from '78, this News Review article. The most that they've really blocked passage at the dam is 2 weeks in the foreseeable future. If you go back to the 60s and 70s, yeah, there were like times that they did 3 or 4 weeks. But even the 70s article, you can see the quotes in there. People were furious. Like, this was not a good thing. Like, why are we doing this now in the 21st century, right? So I put this in. This is how they're going to release the water through the roller gates. They're going to divert water around, work on the face and the back of the dam. Peak summer steelhead migration, that's summer steelhead and a lamprey. I wanted to show you these numbers. So I was able to pull Winchester Dam numbers and do an analysis for all the years from 05 to 14 and do how much percentage of the run actually moved through during the dates that they're going to shut down the dam from August 7th through the 28th. And so you can see this is the first stratum. And the only reason I'm doing that far back is because that's when ODFW counted full counts at Winchester Dam. Now they just do an estimate and kind of extrapolate it all. So if you look at my analysis, some years we saw 19% of the run move through then, and some years we saw 2%. The average for that 10-year period is around 10% of the run.
What happened in 2005? And maybe you should just left that off because it's not.
I know, right? Who knows? So, thought I had, the total count. So they did have quite a few fish move through that year, but this is both hatchery and wild. This was from the biological assessment. As you can see here, the black is indicating the use. In September, they have some juvenile use, or in August, they say they have some juvenile rearing use. The funny thing is I did the analysis, and there's 1 or 2 fish that come through during August every year, Coho salmon. So they have an ESA listed fish moving through. We reported that to National Marine Fisheries Service, and they're enforcement. So right now, the National Marine Fisheries Service is actually looking into this. There's a full-time officer. We got that through just talking to our representatives, right? Our state representatives up that work federally. So we gotta thank them for the work that they've done.
Who
They've
are you
elevated
talking about?
Merkley.
Berkeley?
We elevated the issue with them, and they've been wonderful to work with and supportive. So if you don't mind, if you have time, give them a phone call and say, like, thank you so much for doing that. We have a full-time officer looking into it. We can email him. He came and checked out the dam earlier this year. He actually went and knocked on a few of their doors to say he wanted to check in on it. So that was kind of an interesting thing.
So what can they do?
What's that?
What can they do about the dam?
The enforcement officer?
Yeah, I mean, what?
Berkeley.
What's involved? What
They
can-
can require fish passage, a review, because it's taking ESA listed coho. So the definition of take is any delay. So if a fish comes up and then falls back down, that's delay, right? It's up to their biological opinion ultimately, but, take is, of an ESA listed species is really easy to get. We got plenty of video through their public announcement, this fall, or actually in December when it went live. The coho were coming in and falling back crazy.
So, have you seen the engineering work for what they propose?
It was in the biological assessment. It's a professional engineer. It's not the solution. Oh, I wanted to talk about that a little bit. So the reason we're really upset with the 3-week period is because they can build a cofferdam like they did in the past, all the way across the back of the dam and around. It's super expensive, but it allows them to divert the water through the ladder and do repairs and continue to allow ladder function while doing these repairs. And so they could repair this entire dam face over here and just isolate, anywhere in here. Or they could do it in phases. They could do this one, and this one, and this one, and this one, and allow all the water to keep moving and this fish ladder to keep operating for fish to get up and over. However, ODFW is not requiring that. Whether or not they asked them to do that or not, I don't know. They claim that they said that they wanted less time, but we asked why they're not requiring a cofferdam, and they said there's issues with cofferdams too. The good point that we had to make to that was they're planning on repairing that south upwelling by building a cofferdam anyway. So they're gonna do a cofferdam. It's just a small one. To do the whole dam would be much more expensive. But they're not, someone's gonna have to make them do it. That's something that you can share with folks. Like, why not? Why aren't they doing that? Why aren't our federal and state agencies requiring that? That, to me, that's a given, especially after seeing our summer steelhead runs. It's a state sensitive species as well. So it's classified right below endangered. There was another, back to the polyurethane foam. So one, we're gonna ask DEQ, like, why is this being allowed? It's still, ODFW put it in their letter that they're required to make sure that it meets DEQ specifications and passes. But it'd be wonderful if you all could write DEQ and say you don't want them to use polyurethane. I'd be glad to send around a link to where you can submit those comments and who you can submit those comments to. I know myself as a water user from the city of Roseburg, I don't want it. If you live in the city and you have a relationship with your city councilor, I would share it with them too. I think letting folks know that we don't want polyurethane foam in our water system, our water supply. Even the Umpqua Valley, Umpqua Basin Water District, it's further down there, pulls out water in Sunburn Alley. Like, they shouldn't want this. So these are all things that are kind of shocking. The solution to the polyurethane foam is just putting cobble in the holes. It's not gonna last near as long, but they're gonna have to repair the dam more often, more regularly, but it's something, I like to compare it to, I own a house, I have to upkeep it and maintain it. And city code makes us stand up to code and update our houses and do certain things, and we all have to abide by the law. Why aren't they having to do so, just like the rest of us?
Could you please spell out exactly why the polyurethane is not a good idea?
What's that?
Could you spell out why the polyurethane is not a good
I
idea?
don't know the entire science behind it, but that water, over time, it's gonna break down. Getting
Aren't
up-
there PFAs involved?
Well, they make, stuff out of more natural
Mhm.
ingredients these days.
But I'm pretty sure those are forever chemicals.
But they're
Yeah.
gonna just fill the hole?
Yeah, they're gonna inject it with polyurethane.
So when the wood
It's
wash
much
around
cheaper
it,
for
then the
them
whole
and
thing
it's
can
much
come out.
easier for them to do. They don't have to source the cobble, they don't have to find that solution.
You're just
And they
taking-
has a friend who has some extra.
So, yeah, it's crazy if you ask me too, but that's why it's important that we all write to people and let them know. Write an op-ed about that. There's definitely solutions to fix this dam the way they are. They're more expensive, but they're the right way to do it. And that's just how they should have to do it. So we're gonna keep pushing the way we are, on it. Yeah.
Haven't they ever gone to the state or the feds to try to get grants to get enough money to do the right thing?
Well, I
Yeah.
appreciate you saying that, because I was on the same boat when I first did this, but for their private water, they can spend their own money on that. I would rather our state and federal taxes and stuff go towards riparian restoration up the North Umpqua. I would rather it go towards, benefiting other things. And if they really want their lake and their pond up there, they can go ahead and fix it. That's totally fine with me.
But they're only gonna do the minimum every time.
Well, and that's how you kill it, is you drive the cost up. Because, to the point it gets too expensive. But another consideration, real estate property anywhere along the Umpqua River is a premium, is high value. So we have 100 landowners that have this pool that adds substantial value to their property. But if that dam was gone, and there was substantially greater fish runs up and down the Umpqua River,
Everybody would.
everybody's real estate value goes up tremendously, including them.
Including
Yes.
theirs, there was a study, it was it wasn't published, but Jim was talking about this, was it
Klamath, I believe.
was the Gold Ray, what dam was it?
Oh, it was Savage Rapids.
Savage Rapids. It was a different situation because it was irrigation. There are only two reasons that you can actually build a dam or try and get permits for irrigation or power. And this is only recreation, but because it's grandfathered, that's the way it is. Oh shoot, I just lost my train of thought here.
I
Bring
think
it back here.
the study on the
That's
property
right,
value.
and that's right, and so what happened there was that there was irrigation, but the people who owned the dam not only had, were the ski boat people at the reservoir, but there were a bunch of people downstream who were getting the water. And so when these folks went to